All right. Well, thanks for joining, everyone.
Sure. Good group tonight.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's see, Victoria, did you want to say anything to start? Anything for the group before we jump into the competition intro and everything?
Just welcome, Eli. And
Thank you.
now we have a large, nice, looks like a good group tonight. So I'll just let you move on. Get started.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. So we, just a reminder. So February's competition will be the subject's winter. So that's coming up. The other thing I wanted to let people know is we're going to change up the format a little bit on the competitions this year, where we will present the images and in the competition in a random order, and not grouped by the skill groups F5.6, F8, F11, etc. We'll just do it in groups, or in one big group. For some of you that were in the competition, I think it was last August, where we had some technical difficulties and did it that way. That's what we've decided we'll do this year. But tonight we're doing it the old school way that everyone's familiar with, where we'll first present the F5.6 group, then the F8, F11, etc. So as we go through, as usual, we'll stop at the end of the group and let anyone who scored a 9 or a 10 on an image share a few words about the image. So with that, I was just checking to see if we had any of the visitors on here tonight. Carl said
I don't see any of them, Cliff.
Don't see them. Okay. All right. Well, we'll jump ahead then. So welcome, Eli. So Eli Vega joins us from Arkansas, formerly from Colorado.
Yes.
He had judged with our group in 2015, so it's been a little while. But so welcome back. And Eli offers photography classes via Zoom in Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, and Arkansas. Offered his 3-day Rocky Mountain National Park workshops between 2011 and 2019. And he's the author of the popular book, Right Brain Photography, now in its 4th edition and available on Amazon. His photography has been featured as a double spread in the Telluride Colorado Visitor's Guide, in travel magazines, vacation magazines, postcards, and calendars. His most recent landscape work will appear in a Colorado calendar in 2022 and in 2023 Smith Southwestern calendars. One of Eli's many photography mantras is, "The best photography is found where technical know-how and creative aesthetics meet." So with that, I don't know, Eli, if you want to add any more to that or share anything else with the group.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so pleased. I love talking to camera clubs. That's how I started my career in photography, by joining a camera club back in I think it was late 1980s. I was in Fort Worth, Texas. And that's how I started. I remember getting those low scores and going, "Oh man, I thought my picture was pretty good." But that's how I learned. We had to build a thick skin, so to speak, and just listen to the judge and go, okay. If that's the case, I'll just improve a little better and better, get better and better. And let me share this with you. One thing I did when I was at the camera club is I would listen to the judges when they gave high marks to certain photographers in the group. And at least in my case, there were 3 or 4 members of the camera club that no matter who the judge was, they would always get high scores. So one thing I did, and I'll just pass this along to you, is I kept notes on what is it? What are the judges saying about these photographers that keep getting high scores? So I started looking for the common thread, common threads. And that's how I really improved my photography. Not by feeling sorry for myself, but by looking at those good photographers and learning from what the judges said about those good photographers. So anyway, for what that's worth, if you're interested in keeping up with me and what I'm doing, workshops, seminars, etc., you're welcome to sign up for my monthly newsletter. My next one goes out tomorrow, actually. So just get with, let's see, Carl, I guess, or Cliff,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
they can give
we'll-
you they can give you my email.
We'll post a link here.
Yeah, they can give you my email. And just email me, let me know, say, and just tell me, hey, Eli, please add me to your newsletter. In my newsletter, I also list a pick of the month, a tip of the month, and a whole lot of just interesting stuff for photographers. And speaking of upcoming classes, there is a group there, right there in Denver. It's called the Colorado Photographic Arts Center. Has anybody heard of that group? It's right there in Denver. And I am teaching through Zoom my right brain photography class through them. And that's going to be it's on Thursdays for 3 weeks in a row, 2-hour sessions starting February the 24th. So you might just go to their website if you're interested and join us on February 24th through March the 10th. Okay, with that, let me say a few remarks about judging. It's never easy for us judges, regardless of our backgrounds. And today is a little bit difficult, if I can say this. I'm only working with a 4-point spread here, 4-point scale, which makes it a little difficult. When I'm working with 6 or 7-point scales, I'm able to spread out my ratings a little more. So I say that because don't feel too bad if you get 7s, because that's the number I have to play with, 7 through 10. So just remember that a 7 tonight could have been a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10 in other circumstances. So anyway, with that, and please remember also that if you get low scores from me, really art is subjective. Photography is art. So, okay, so what I'm saying is if you get a 7 on one image, don't be surprised if you enter that same image again, several months later under a different judge, and that same image might get a 7, 8, or 9. So you never know. So it's subjective. So please keep that in mind. Don't be disappointed. Just learn from my comments. Okay, with that, I'm ready to take a look at what we have.
There you go. Okay. Well, Bob, are you ready?
Ready.
So what we'll do here is Bob will present the image. I'll announce the title. Eli comment and just move through them like that. And if everyone else could please mute, and off we go. The coat.
All right. I'm going to start with the score and then comment on it, so you'll understand. 7 on this one. For black and white photography, I like to see really nice combinations of blacks, grays, and all 3 variations of blacks and grays and whites. And this one is very gray to me. And as far as the composition, I know this was probably a grab shot, but it would have been nice if he had been holding I guess the woman with his left arm. It might have been a better composition.
Passed by.
Yeah, I like these old old buildings. I love old buildings. For this one, I think I like the building. I like the attempt. I like the subject matter of just antiquity and things falling apart. I love that kind of stuff. For this particular one, I think it might have looked better if it was cropped and really tight shot. Can you see my arrow here? No?
No, we can't.
Okay, never mind. I guess I can only see it if I'm the one that's handling the show. So if I think I would have cropped it very tight here to where you just see the front of the building. I think that would have been a little more dynamic. A 7.
Black Rose, Santa Fe.
Yeah, I like Santa Fe. I like the subject matter. It's very interesting, the way the person is positioned. I like the color, the contrast between grays, whites, and darks. I like it a lot. It's very mysterious. I'm going to give it an 8. I would have given it a little higher if the rose or that flower had a little more detail in it to piggyback on the title.
Yellow moth orchid.
Again, I like the subject. I like flowers. I like orchids. Anything of that sort always makes for a really good photograph. So I like your selection of the subject. However, please be careful with things that are out of focus, like over on the left side of this image, because it draws my eye to it if it's out of focus, especially if it's out of focus and in the foreground. So please be careful with that. With a little bit of Photoshop, you could have deleted that. But if that wasn't available to you, then do it at the time in the field. Just be careful with your compositions, and also be careful with very bright objects or areas in the image like this one in the background. Again, because it draws the viewer's eye away from your main subject. Did I give it a score? Yeah, 7.
Okay. The next on to F8 group. We have 12 images here. 55 years together, still walking the beach.
I like this image. Now, again, my subjectivity comes in when I hear the title. When I hear the title, I want to see a connection between the title and the image. If I didn't know the title, this photo might have rated a little higher, but I'm going with a combination of, oh, okay, somebody's celebrating anniversary, 50, whatever, 55 years. So let me tell you what I like about it. I do like the formation in the water. Very interesting. I like the birds flying in the sky. I like the water. But now comes the association of the image with the title. I think it would have been a better feel for me if instead of walking right to left, if they had just been standing there holding each other, maybe his arm around her waist as they were looking out, kind of dreaming and feeling like thinking we're so lucky to have been together such a long time. So that's the only thing I can think of that could have improved this shot. So that's why I'm giving it an 8.
3 plants.
I would like for you to get a little more creative with what you're doing. It looks like an entryway or backyard or patio of 2 plants that are serving as decoration. And try to get a little more creative with this, as opposed to just taking a picture of what's in this building. For example, you could have got in really tight on this and captured only those plants, and only that and the brick in the image. So try cropping that later after, when you get back home, and see what that looks like. 7.
1930 Pierce Arrow hood ornament.
Yeah, good subject. I like the subject. This, again, for black and white images, I like to see some really nice contrast between the blacks, the whites, and the grays. And this one has mostly grays. So I think it could have used a little more contrast to make this more dynamic, more contrast. 7.
So just a question on that, Eli, just, the more contrast on the subject or in the background?
The entire image. If we had more contrast, I think the what do you call it? The piece on the hood here would have stood out more.
Okay. Living and Dead.
Interesting subject. Interesting subject. Very, very interesting. Very mysterious. I like the composition. I like the contrast in this one. See how this one has more contrast than the other one before this? I can see more blacks, more grays, more whites or lights. And I'm going to give this a 9. It would have been a 10 with the exception of that fence in the background, I mean, in the foreground. I think that would have been easy to eliminate those poles and the fence. 9.
Okay. Hats.
This might surprise you, but I like this a lot. I saw this earlier, and I'm going to give it a 10 for several reasons. One is, first, the subject matter. It's so unique. It's so different. You don't see this in images, in photographs. It's very unique. Then the composition is very well done, with a placement on the hat on the upper right-hand corner, with that strap hanging down like that, and a nice contrast between the blacks, grays, and whites.
Try one.
This is also unique. I like to see unique images, things that we don't normally see, we don't usually see. And this is one of them. It has a very personal and intimate feel to this image. It's almost like I'm talking to her, like she's giving me this dish to try. So it's a very nice composition, interesting subject matter. I'm gonna give it a 9.
Izu portrait.
Again, very good subjects here. Very good subject that you guys picked. So for this one, yeah, really high ranks, high points for the subject. However, 2 things that really diminish from it being a really awesome image, and that is it's really blown out. The fur, the mane is very blown out, as you can see, and it pulls my attention away from the face. And also, please be very careful with anything in the foreground, like those leaves, whatever that was. Again, when you get something in the foreground and out of focus, it draws attention to it, to itself. And this is what it did for me. 7.
Portrait of a puffin.
This is interesting. There's another one similar to this that we'll get to that I saw earlier. This one I'm going to give a 7 because to me it's just a picture of an object, a picture of a bird. It's not a penguin. I don't know what this is. What'd you say it was? What'd you call it?
Portrait of a puffin.
A puffin, sorry. Yeah, it is just a picture of a puffin, and that's it. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little more of the bird and a little more of the background rather than just it by itself.
Just over the hill.
This looks like Roxborough. I like Roxborough. I used to shoot Roxborough a lot when I was there. I'm going to give this an 8. It's a strong 8. It could have been a little higher. I'm very high on composition. And the reason I didn't give it a higher rating than 8 is because the formations on the left lean toward the left. So it draws my eye away from the image rather than contain my concentration within the 4 corners. And I think a simple thing like maybe moving to the left a little bit so there wouldn't be so much on the edge. And I think that composition might have been a little stronger.
Christmas at Pacific Beach.
Like this, I think it's important when you're out shooting to think about not just is it technically correct. Not only did I use the right exposure, the right f-stop, the right shutter speed, and so on, but part of it, you have to introduce aesthetics into it, and this has a lot of a mood to it. So I like this. I'm going to give it a 9. I think I would have given it a 10 if maybe the sunrise wasn't so much over to the right, but maybe a little bit more to the left, which would have required the photographer moving just a little bit to the left. But very well done photograph. I like this one.
Sentinel by the Sea.
Several things need help on this one. I like to say that if I were there if I had been there with you, what would we have tried? One thing is maybe move over to the left a little bit. I'm thinking maybe there might have been a little something more interesting, and maybe include more of the water than the rocks, just a little bit to the left. And the colors, those turquoise colors, I think they should be more blue. So if you're adjusting colors, those turquoise colors should be more blue. This image, I think, might work well and look even better in black and white. So go home and convert this to a black and white and see what happens. 7.
Maestro's hellishly bad feather day.
Okay, somebody spent a lot of time on this one, I can tell. I don't know how many hours you spent on this one, but it was time well taken. I like this a lot because you took the time to think about, what do I introduce on the right? What do I introduce to the left? How will my foreground look? How will the sky look? A lot of time was taken, it looks like, to get it just right. So the bird itself is interesting, the way it's turned around. The rock formations on the right are very interesting, very well done, and they lead your eye up back to the distance. The tree on the left, that object there that looks like a tree, looks very surreal, like Salvador Dali. Very well done. 10.
Okay, and that is it for F8. So we got a few 9s and 10s here. We'll go back, let the photographer say a few words. So this is Try One by William Williams. Okay, he must not be on tonight. Christmas Pacific Beach. This is Philip Rogers.
Yeah, I took this at Pacific Beach in San Diego at Christmas time. See the tree on the wharf. When I took it, I don't think I could. I'm pretty sure that's like the end of the wharf. That's why, like, the sunset it's already down below the horizon, and I couldn't really move much to get the whole thing in there. But yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about it.
Okay, thanks, Philip. And Living and Dead, Joe Weber.
Yeah, so this is a really foggy day along the coast, and I kind of struggled with how to show the trees and all the dead stuff and work around the fog. So I think I learned something, but I'm not sure.
All right, thanks, Joe. And hats, this is Laura Blake.
I took this at the Denver Stock Show a few days ago. There was a young man that was blocking hats. He steamed them and would reshape them and clean them for you. And I took a picture of him, but I also took a picture of his setup.
Thanks, Laura. And this is Terry Henford.
Yeah, this obviously is a composite. I put together lots of different images. The bird is a tufted puffin that I saw at the Newport, Oregon aquarium. The rock was a rock that I saw at Staunton State Park. The ground is actually painted concrete from Stanley Marketplace, and it's actually a piece of driftwood at Lincoln City, Oregon, off to the left. And I was practicing trying to get perspective into this. Oh, and the sky was something I took on my cell phone just in my neighborhood here. So it was putting lots of pieces together. I also was practicing on creating the shadows and doing perspective warping. So just lots of trying new things with this. Thank you for the 10.
All right, thanks, Terry. I think that was all of them. So on to F11, we got 13 images here. winter trees, stormy sky.
Yeah, again, good subject, interesting subject. I like the sky, the clouds. I like the trees. I think that's what I like about it. I think a little more contrast might have added to it, and maybe a little more what I call breathing room to the right a little bit might have added to it. But I like it a lot. 8.
Processor thing.
Okay. This might have looked more interesting if you had applied this and just forgotten the photograph altogether and gone to Photoshop or other software and used to apply a filter to it. It might have looked better as a digital painting than a photograph because I don't see anything other than this piece of machinery. And so a 7, as it is, maybe a little more contrast also with the background. Yeah, 7.
Okay. Shadows on the plaza.
The title of Shadows on the Plaza, I think I would have liked to have seen more shadows over to the right. Maybe a horizontal shot over to the right. I do like your attempt at your observation of shadows as a subject. That's always an interesting subject. But maybe if you have a horizontal at home, go back and take a look at it and adjust a little more of the contrast in it to really bring out the blacks and the whites in it. 7.
Rooftop golden.
This one has a lot of contrast. I keep saying contrast, contrast. But I'm just not sure about these. The subject matter here on the right. It's I don't know, a chimney and a vent. So that left me a little with, I wish there would have been different subjects, and that would have been really interesting. But still very well done. 8.
Stare down.
Interesting subject. Again, I keep repeating subject because that's the thing I look at. I look at subject, lighting, and composition. So the lighting is very well done, very mysterious. The subject is also very mysterious. It looks a little soft at the bottom. It could be just the way I'm looking at it here. I'm just not sure. I did see it earlier before and it looked a little soft, but still a very interesting image. 9.
Creation in clay.
Again, interesting subject, unique subject. You don't see photographs of people creating their art. To me, it's more of the hands than the artist. So although it's very well done, I think I would have liked to have maybe seen the artist's face as he or she is looking down at his or her creation, but still very nicely done. 8.
Fog, fog around the mountain.
Again, I repeat myself, nice landscape subject, nice color, nice lighting, the clouds hovering around the mountains. I would have given this a 9 or 10. However, you notice that piece, there's a big chunk at the bottom of this image that's not your beautiful sunflowers. It's just green. I call it dead space. If you crop that 1/3 from the bottom, it becomes a 10 very quickly. Because what you see is nothing but yellow greens in the mountain and the sky and the clouds. But it's diminished by having too much foreground, too much of that green, a lot of empty spots in the landscape. Well done. 8.
Out to sea.
To me, I like the attempt of out to sea. You know, so it's an image that's about being out to sea. But I don't know, maybe a different composition. Not having been there, I don't know what the options were, but maybe a different composition. Maybe just those formations on the right and in the center, and then more water in the sky. And also it looks a little soft. I would have liked to have seen a little more vibrance to this image. 7.
Buffalo Pass Aspen.
I would have, I love the subject of aspens. God, when I lived in Colorado, geez, that's an A+ kind of subject matter every fall. So yes, I like the fact that you saw aspens, the color is beautiful. However, I think your image really is the right side of this image, where the orange and red aspens are and the white bark. You see that contrast? It's beautiful. So I think if you had zoomed in or walked in, probably zoomed in, and just captured those orange and red aspens with the beautiful white barks and a little bit of that yellow in the background, that would have been what you were after. 7.
Lilies in Motion.
I like motion. If you've been to my website, you've seen some of that. I'm an artist by background, so I like motion in photography. So yeah, I like the attempt of motion. This is very interesting. Looks like a painting. However, there might have been a little too much motion. If you had done a little less, a little faster, it would have been a really nice shot, but still very well done. 8.
The covered bridge.
I like the bridge. I like the bridge. I like the road leading to it. A little bit of fall in the scene. I think it might have been a little stronger if 2 things had happened. One, if you had included a little more of the road, number 1, and had moved over to the right just a little bit to introduce more of the back of the bridge. That would have been a little more dramatic, more interesting. But this being the case, I'm going to go with a 7 on this one. I want to emphasize compositions. Composition is something that when I've judged so much in the last 20 years or so, and composition I keep seeing it as one of the weakest areas among photographers. Speaking of composition, compare this composition to the next one.
So To the Beach.
Yeah, this has very good composition. I talk about composition in my book. I talk about composition in my classes, but it has to do with how do I put all the elements in front of me, before me? How do I put them all together to make them more interesting? How do I fill those 4 corners of my viewfinder to create something that's more interesting, more dynamic, etc.? And this one does that. I mean, I can see myself walking down these steps toward the beach. It just, the stair steps lead me to the beach. Like I can see myself there. And then you added a little bit on the left-hand side and the upper left-hand corner there to balance the image out. The colors are good. The composition is good. The subject is good. The lighting is good. 10.
Shorebirds.
When you're out there shooting, when you see something like this, like birds, don't photograph what you're thinking, because you're thinking, oh, 2 birds in the water. But go beyond 2 birds in the water. For example, this could have benefited by a little bit more water over toward the right a little bit, as far as composition goes. So you can see these birds in the water. As opposed, here I just see 2 birds. And yeah, they're in the water, but I would have liked to have seen a little more water on the right, number 1, and a little more lighter than it is. It's a little dark, especially the reflections. And that's easy to do. Lighten up the reflections a little bit and the image overall, and a little more contrast. 7.
Okay, that is it for the F11 group. We got a couple 9 and 10 here. So this is Stare Down by Bob Bartlett.
Yes, I shot this at Hot Quest last year. The owner brings in several birds, including a bald eagle, and we're invited to shoot. And so I saw this owl close to the tree, but I wasn't close enough, so I had to zoom in and highlight the eyes by including a little more color as well as focus. And that's it.
All right, thanks, Bob. Yeah, and then To the Beach at Allie Green. She does have a comment here. We were in South Africa in November, and this was taken on our hike on the Roberg Peninsula, which has the most gorgeous views of the wild coast.
Did you capture it?
All right, next on to F16. Do not try this at home.
I like the title. Very interesting. This is a very well done photograph. The only reason I didn't give it a 10, this is a 9, very strong 9. The shades of blacks and grays, especially not too many whites, but the grays and blacks. But the fact that there's almost an even distribution of grays and blacks in both the foreground and the background makes the planes almost camouflage. They kind of blend in too much with the background. So I think maybe we had lightened the planes just a little to bring them out and separate them from the background. It might have been an even stronger image, but it's good enough as it is. Very great shot, good shot. 9.
Saturday, 34th and 5th.
Okay. People walking downtown. I like the idea that you had of why not photograph just people walking toward me. So that's an interesting idea, an interesting concept. But I think it would have been even stronger and more mysterious if I didn't see the word Macy's. If you can imagine that without the Macy's in it, then it would have been a very mysterious photograph. Like, who are these people? Where are they? Why are they walking all toward me? So that would have improved this image. 8.
Eternal Hazard of the Desert.
I like to photograph these plants. Very interesting. It's very artistic photograph. Very artistic. I think it would have been stronger horizontal. It's a horizontal image rather than vertical, because I photographed these plants before and they go forever and ever toward the sides. I think it would have been a little stronger. Nonetheless, I do like this. A strong 8.
Pampas grasses.
Same comments on this one. I think I'm assuming there were more than these. I think a horizontal shot might have been a little more stronger. 7.
No, wait, there's more.
Are you talking to me? Just kidding. No, I like this one. I like portraits, especially when they're done like this with shadows. I like the shadows. There's nothing wrong with shadows. In today's photography, there's so much cookie cutter kind of photography where everything is sharp and detailed and no shadows and so on. But man, introduce some shadows into your images like you did here. Nice shadows and nice, interesting subject with a flag and the tie and the coat. And it's a very strong, I'm gonna give it a 9. It could have been a 10. I'm gonna give it a 9 only because with the title of Wait, There's More, I think I would have wanted that the finger to be pointing a little more toward me and maybe the eyes with an expression of wait, there's more. As it is, I would have liked maybe the hand down or maybe the 2 hands cupped together and so on. But still, nonetheless, a very well done image. 9.
Forever the Matriarch.
Again, I keep saying contrast, more combinations of blacks and grays. and lights. And this is a little too gray for me. It's a nice subject, a good subject. I photographed a lot in Arches National Park, so these can be very interesting subjects. 7.
1936 Ford.
I like this. I keep saying good composition. I love the composition on this. Man, your eye moves all over this image. That's one of the ingredients, if you will, of a good composition. My eye travels throughout this image. It starts with the car and then it travels throughout the image. It's interesting all the way around. And this could have been a 10, but I'll give it a strong 9. I would have given it a 10 if maybe a little bit lighter on the left door and maybe a little more detail on the wheel on the right, the tire on the right, but still extremely well done, a strong 9. If I had a broader scale, I would have given it a 9.5, but it's that good. Good shot.
Vibrant faux color ginger.
Good approach here of just nothing but abstract. I can see this on somebody's wall. Nice abstract. I liked the subject matter. I'm going to give it a strong 8 on this one.
Abandoned.
And again, good subject matter. I love old buildings, old barns, and so on. Nice sky, nice color, good sky. I think if I had been there, there's one object in the photograph. So follow along with me. We see the barns, the 2 structures. That's the main element of this image. However, if you look closely with me, there's a big, big tree to the left. And it's so big that it's as big as the barn in the middle. It's so big that it draws my attention away from the main subject, which are the barns. So, I mean, we can't do anything about the tree. It's there. We can't cut it down, right? But something we could have done, given that big tree, is maybe move over to the right a little bit, a different perspective, and that would have minimized the size of the tree, or at least the illusion of the size of the tree would have looked smaller, and we would have introduced the other right-hand side of this barn on the right. Very well done. 8.
Nurturing new life.
Yes, interesting. I like your subject. It fits. It's a dead tree, but it's not. There's new life coming out of it. It is giving life to other life. Interesting concept to work with. Colors are nice. The subject is nice. As far as the being more enticing, giving the subject matter, I think if he had cropped it from the bottom up to about, see that strong horizontal line right there, about roughly 1/3 from the bottom. I think if you had cropped it right there, it would have had a stronger message for what you were trying to convey. Otherwise, very well done image. 8.
Peaceful.
Nice, very well done. I'm going to give this one a 9. I think earlier when I saw this, I was going more toward 8, but it really helped to see it twice, because it reminded me that you were going with peaceful. My initial impression when I first saw this was, oh, it needs a little more contrast, a little more vibrance. But I think I like it as it is because this looks peaceful. If you had added more contrast and more vibrance, it would have just been a well executed image from a left brain perspective. But aesthetically, it looks very nice and peaceful. Strong 9.
Abandoned homestead.
Again, I love old buildings. I like the building you photographed here. I wish I had a chance to photograph it myself, because it's a really cool structure. If you had moved over to the left a little bit, I think you might have included more of the building, actually the total building, as opposed to cutting it off a little bit, giving it some breathing room on the right, plus a different perspective, moving to the left. Not too much to the left, just enough to include more of that inside of that area, that room back there would have made it more interesting. 8.
Snowy stare.
It is snowing. It is a stare. Yeah, I like that. I like fox. I like wildlife. And I like the fact that you caught this one just staring right at you. Very interesting. The foreground looks like the snow was very close to you, so close to you that with the telephoto lens, it came out very soft. But nonetheless, a good image. 9. It would have been a 10 without that softness in the foreground.
Marshall.
I like Marshall. Kudos to the photographer here. I'm going to hear from you later. This is an extremely done portrait. It's definitely, for me, a 10. Let me explain why. I can't see anything that I don't like about this. I like the subject, the person, the man. I like what you did with his hair, the detail in his hair. I like the shadows, nice dark shadows. So dark that it's hard to distinguish where the left shoulder begins and ends and where the wall, the background begins and ends. They just kind of camouflage and blend into each other. That's what I call taking an artistic approach to photography. And you did this extremely well, highlighting only certain parts of the face, and that was enough. The face, the structure, the wrinkles in the face, the blue eyes, just a little bit of teeth, extremely well done.
Afternoon shadows.
This is another 10 for different reasons. It's a unique subject matter. You don't see this very often. The combination of keyboards, the keys on the keyboard, the rows, and the music. When I saw this earlier, it reminded me of, what's that? Who's that singer that sang The Rose? Bette Midler? Yeah, Bette Midler. And I don't know sheet music, but the fact that there's sheet music, my brain says it must be very soothing, very romantic music in the score, thus the flower. So I like all the combination of what you did with the lighting, the shadows of the lines. The shadows go from top right to left, and the keys go just the opposite direction. Very well done. I like this. Kudos. 10.
Nearing winter.
When you photograph this, there's nothing wrong. I used to think there was. I was more of a very strict photographer back in the 80s and early 90s. But since then, it's okay if there are other leaves around there. It's okay to kind of move them around and just create your composition. And by doing so, you could have added more leaves in this photograph and less pebbles, less ground, and then a little bit more contrast. It could have been a lot more interesting having done that. 7.
Skywalker.
I like the title. I like everything about this. The color, the composition, the title, subject matter, and the man in I assume it's a man, in silhouettes. Doesn't bother me because that's not really the subject. It's the entire concept of what's going on here. The color, those curves add to it. The positioning of the man and the parachute, or whatever it's called. It's just excellent. 10. Very interesting. Good job.
It's been a really tough day.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah. Interesting, interesting animal, interesting expression, nice blurred background. You can almost feel the fur in this. This is a very strong 9.
Making bread.
Now, this might surprise some of you, but I'm going to give this a 10. This is, again, one of those subject matters that you just don't see. You just don't see this. Not only is it an interesting image, not only does it have interesting shadows and what she's doing there with her hands, she's fixing something. And now, as far as composition, look at her face, the woman in the foreground. Her head, her face is aiming toward the inside of the image, as well as her arm is leading us toward the inside of this image. The woman on the right, just the fact that she's facing down to where the other woman is doing something, again, psychologically, it leads our eye back into the action that's going on here. And then the other woman's scarf, see how that line that's introduced with the scarf, psychologically, it leads our eye back into the photograph. Now, maybe you don't see that, but I see that all the time, and I see good composition. It might have been an accident, it might have been planned, I don't know, but in either case, that's what you got, a great composition, very dynamic, very interesting, very mysterious, and it tells a story, a strong 10.
Nickel Plate Road.
Yeah, again, nice, interesting subject matter. I think I would have included a little more of the car and still had retained the interest of all this writing on it. But if you had backed away, maybe over to the right, with a little more angle, it might have been a little stronger. 7.
Cape Disappointment.
Again, a good topic, good subject of water coming in. You have the lighthouse in the background to complement everything. So yeah, all that as well. I think what I would have done is would have been more patient and waited for stronger waves to come in to fill in more of that space on the left. I think there would have been a little stronger composition. And again, a little more contrast and a little more detail would have worked for this one. 7.
Sunset at Bosque del Apache.
I like the colors in the sky. Everything else, however, looks very soft. I don't know why, but I would have expected a little more detail, and it maybe a little more foreground, not much more, just a little more foreground, and more contrast and more detail. 7.
Fallen Vermont.
Very well done. Very similar to the other one I saw earlier, and very similar comments. Yes, you could argue that this could have benefited from more contrast, more vibrance, a little sharper. You could have said all those things, and they would have been true. Yeah, it could have given us a really nice image. But when we say those things, we're thinking technically. You know, what could be done technically? But when you're looking at this and think of the title, it's very peaceful. It's very relaxing, as it is. You know, I don't have to see all the detail on the barn to feel at peace and feel like, oh, I wish I could go. I'd be there at the time. So this is a strong 9.
Seeing Double.
Yeah. I think somebody's been watching or going to my website. You know, I like double exposures. This is nice, very well done. I'm going to give it, it's very artistic, very creative. It almost looks like a painting. I'm going to give it a 9. I would have given it a 10 if it had a little bit less of that turquoise quadrant and had been filled in a little more with the colors. Looks like a watercolor. It looks like a watercolor painting. Interesting.
Red sky morning, sailors take warning.
I like this. I like this a lot. Again, I keep saying the subject matter. Good composition, very good composition. A little bit of foreground, but not too much. The rock on the left stops my eye from flowing. My eye stops right there on the rock in the corner. The other rock right above it causes my eye to stop and keep looking toward the image. The rocks on the lower right, all of that, all those rocks in formation stop my eye right there. And so the idea is to bring my eye into the center of this image where everything is happening. Nice soft water, nice soft colors. This also reminds me of a watercolor. And yes, again, you could argue that, you know, the building in the background and the light, all of that in the background could have been a little sharper. But, you know, again, not everything has to be super, super sharp. I like this. I'm going to give it a 10 because of the mood it exudes.
I see a bad moon rising.
Again, I like your attempt of the moon rising. The title fits. The moon is there. I think I would have liked to have seen just a little more light, a little more, looks better exposure on the trees in the middle and in the water, especially in the reflection, little lighter reflection. And I don't know why the middle ground is blurry, but I think I would have liked to have seen a little more detail. 7.
Up close and personal.
Technically, very well done. Kind of like the owl. But unlike the owl, I think I gave the owl a 9 or a 10. I forget which one. And I think I would have given this a 9 or a 10. But it's that mouth open like that. Again, it's subjective, but I think I would have liked it with the mouth not open like that. This takes me inside the mouth rather than focus on the eyes and the beak and the feathers. A strong 8.
Woodcutters and pilgrims.
This one has 3 things going for it that are excellent. The composition. See that curve that the people create psychologically? There's a curve in the picture created by nothing other than the people. If you follow the people and draw a line, there's a curve in there. Very interesting curve. The person on the right, again, stops your view right there. Your eye stops right there. The person on the left in the middle, your eye stops right there. It focuses the energy of the view right toward the center of this image. So it has a very strong, good, strong composition, good lighting, and an extremely interesting subject. So because of all 3, I give this a 10.
Barn door detail.
I like the idea of details. I like the idea of barn. I think I would have zoomed out just a little more and get more of the door, and you still would have included the hinge and the rust and everything else. So we had zoomed out just a little more and then added a little more contrast. By contrast, in case I haven't explained that yet, by contrast, I mean the red's a little redder, the yellow's a little yellower, the gray's a little more vibrant. 7.
And that is it. You have a number of 9s and 10s. So, oops, you're a step ahead of me there. Do not try this at home. That's Todd Lytle.
Thanks, Eli. The Navy Blue Angels have been a favorite of mine for most of my life. I saw them first time when I was 7 or 8 years old. So I had a chance to go see them this year. They were actually in Colorado in October. And I spent 3 full days there. So I think you're going to unfortunately see more things submitted from that air show, including one more tonight. But yeah, anyway, it was a lot of fun. And the Blue Angels just changed to this particular aircraft in 2020. They didn't have any air shows in 2020. Several of you will identify it, probably Cliff. It's a F-18 Super Hornet. And they just went to this aircraft 2 years ago, and they practiced for 100 and some odd days in Pensacola in 2020. And so it was literally the first time in an air show in 2021 that anybody's been able to photograph this particular plane.
You recall what your shutter speed was, Todd?
Say that again?
Do you recall what your shutter speed was?
I could look it up, but I was panning. It was probably 2,000. I don't know. Somebody could probably look faster than I could.
A good job of panning.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I was very conscious of it, but they're probably a half mile away too. So, I mean, that was I think that's about a 600 millimeter equivalent lens. So they were a very far distance away. And so I wasn't, the shutter speed wasn't critical. I think anything over 1,000 probably would have been fun.
Well,
They're going fast. I mean, they're going 375, they're going 400 miles an hour.
Whoa, good job on that one.
Thanks.
No, wait, there's more. There's Cliff Lawson.
This guy, thank you for your comments, Eli, but he wasn't looking at me. Of course, he was reliving a story when he was a young first lieutenant in Vietnam. And he was going over things that he could have done better to lead his troops.
Wow.
So he was lost in the moment. He wasn't talking to me. He was just going over the story about, I probably should have titled it Things I Could Have Done Better, but for his whole photo session, he never stopped talking. And I had to take pictures. I must have 30 pictures of him with his hands in different locations and his eyes all over the place. But in this particular one, he was going over, I wish I had done better. It was quite a guy, very interesting man.
Good.
This is Dan Greenberg, 1936 Ford.
Obviously that's a 36 Ford. This was taken in a place called the 7A Ranch, which is like kind of a restored cowboy town southeast of Austin, Texas. And they had a car show here, which is amazing because it was all cars like this and whatever. This one and these kind of buildings and stuff like that, and people even got to stay in them. This car here, we were posing for a magazine shoot. And so the reason that the door may appear darker, Eli, is because when you're doing these kind of things, you typically, or at least I do anyway, go through a lot of work to get rid of reflections and stuff like that. And that way the car has a nice clean look. If you see it the way it was shot, it would be, reflecting buildings and all sorts of other crazy things. But anyway, so that's basically it. And other than that, like I said, just cleaned it up and pushed the contrast and color a little bit. That's it.
Nice.
Thank you.
And it's peaceful, Danny Lamb.
This photo was taken in New Mexico last month, and I appreciate and totally agree to your comments. And adding extra contrast will destroy the peaceful atmosphere.
Yep. Thank you. Snowy Stare, Brian Donovan.
Yeah, I took this behind my house last spring. It was a big snowstorm, and I was inside, and I looked out the window, and I saw him, and I quickly grabbed my camera, ran out the front door, and snuck around the side of the house, and he saw me and just stared at me for a little while.
It's been a really tough day. This is Dan Greenberg.
Yeah, that one, that's a given name, a real rare one from Laos named Zen. She's at the Denver Zoo. And so it was one of those kind of things I, zooming in, on her, with roughly an 840 millimeter lens, and it came out so well, and I got her face so well that I thought I just have to do more with it. So there you go.
Paul in Vermont, Victoria Ashby.
Yes, this was taken obviously when we were in Vermont last October. And to your point, Eli, yes, I had one with more contrast and I kept jumping back and forth between the two. And I went with this one for the same reason. It did make it more peaceful.
Yeah.
And seeing double, Gwen Patton.
Yeah, this was a multiple exposure, obviously, taken in my camera, my Panasonic Lumix camera. And I don't think there was a lot of processing I did to it.
And this is Marshall. This is also Cliff Lawson.
Yeah, this gentleman was also one of the fellows up. He was up at the Vail VFW, a Vietnam veteran, and he just has a great face. This is lit by a large Octa softbox off to camera left, a reflector on camera right just to fill in the shadows, and then there's a 12x36 strip box back just to kind of light up the background and give him some separation from the background. But with that face and those blue eyes, and there's no accentuation of the blue in those blue eyes. That's him.
Yeah.
So that wonderful gray hair and that face with those blue eyes, he's just a great subject.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for Afternoon Shadows, Butch Mazuka. And no comments on that one. So, and Skywalker, this is also Todd Lytle.
I'll bet you guess it was at the same air show, since it's the Navy, US, Marine Corps, Blue Angels. This was interestingly a pretty tight crop from an image that's probably 3 or 4 times that size. The only people that can use these parachutes, by the way, Carl Googled it, it's called a Ram Air parachute. And in their lingo, they just call it their canopy. But he was dropped out of a aircraft that they call Fat Albert, a big giant transport plane, and he was doing circles. So he had started way off to the right side, and he was doing loop-to-loops. I have several captures of him either 45 degrees or 90 degrees, or in some cases completely upside down. If you look carefully, you can see that those smoke systems are all connected by a wire that hangs off of his right boot. And so as he flips around, these are, he was making one circle after the other. It looked like the Olympic rings or something. And this was just one part of one that I liked because he was positioned in front of the prior circle that had already started to dissipate. So that's that.
All right, thanks, Todd. And Making Bread, this is Travis Broxton.
Hi, yeah, thank you. This was shot in Israel, in the Negev. It's a Bedouin village, and they were preparing bread for a wedding the next day. And the women are in one building making bread and food and that kind of stuff. In another building, the men are slaughtering animals and putting them in a big pot. So I decided not to post pictures of that particular part. But this is my second time visiting this Bedouin village. This was taken about, maybe about 4 years ago. So yeah, they're very nice people. I loved it.
Thanks, Travis. Red Sky Morning, this is Brian Donovan.
Yeah, I took this in Portland, Maine, this last fall, first thing in the morning, and I think it's F16, about 5 seconds.
Okay, thanks. And this is Oz Feniger, Woodcutters and Pilgrims.
This a number of years ago in northern Ethiopia, and we're in Axum in northern Ethiopia. Place we were staying was on top of the hill, and looking down in the morning, we were quite surprised to see these what I call pilgrims coming into town. It was probably Sunday, and then the woodcutters bringing in wood from the surrounding areas. The fence, the colors of the fence are the colors of the flag of Ethiopia. And it was just a magic scene. I think it was taken with a fairly long lens. But yeah, so that's about it.
Does. And that is it. That's a wrap on the images. So Eli, I want to thank you for your judging and comments tonight. And,
You're welcome.
The specific constructive notes and that. I know the members really appreciate that. I was looking for how we can improve. Victoria, anyone else had any other comments or questions for Eli?
I just want to join you in thanking Eli for all of his comments. And
You're welcome. You're welcome. I saw some great photography today. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if that's it, we thank you for your time, and I guess we'll see everyone in February for our next competition.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eli.
Thanks, Eli.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a
Keep
lot.
shooting. Keep shooting.
Okay, good night.
Good night.